YouTube, how's it going? And welcome back to AJ's Garage. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, I hope you please consider subscribing. I would greatly appreciate it. Also, I do just want to say thank you to all the new subscribers. I hope you guys continue to enjoy the content. And before we get started with this one, I do want to announce that I'm going to be extending the Super Clean giveaway. So next video, I'll announce a winner. If you haven't already, go down and watch that video, please. Leave a thumbs up and a comment on which product you like best, and that will automatically enter you to win. So this video, guys, I'm going to be going over how I rebuilt this Holley 2-barrel 2300, list number 7508-1. So the list number with Holley carburetors, and this is the first time that I've done anything with the Holley carb, the list number will kind of identify what application this is for. So if you guys are rebuilding a Holley carburetor, make sure you guys find the list number and find out what it goes to. So hopefully we can get the truck to run off of this. Let's get started. So one tip that I can definitely give you guys when taking apart and rebuilding any carburetor is to take your time, document things, take pictures if you need to, so that you remember where things go. When it's something that you haven't had practice with or done very much, it's pretty easy to kind of get lost and overwhelmed with all the small pieces. I have rebuilt some carburetors in the past. They were just Motorcraft 2-barrels and they're a lot simpler. There's not so many pieces with them, but it's the same principle. So now that we got this completely apart, we'll get it in the chemical dip, let it sit for a few days, get everything nice and clean, and then work on putting everything back together with the rebuild kit. Now, one really cool thing that I noticed with this 2-barrel that I haven't seen on any other carburetor is the web design here. So I've never seen that before, and I'm not sure if that's what's supposed to help with increased fuel efficiency, but just thought it was kind of cool. So we'll get this all cleaned up and then we'll start the rebuild process. Alrighty guys, so I got everything ready for reassembly, and I didn't end up dipping everything in the carb parts cleaner. It was mainly just these two pieces, a lot of the smaller things. The rest of it I just cleaned up with some carb and choke cleaner. Got the base plate nice and clean. I did dip these in the carb cleaner and put those back on, so I have started some of the reassembly, just kind of on the smaller things. The power valve is in, same thing with the jets, and then the accelerator pump is on already. But this vacuum source here was plugged up, so it took me a while to clean that out. And then also the fuel in was definitely clogged up, so it goes in here, goes up, down through here, and then into the bowl. So there's just a bunch of, whether it was just old gas that just got really gummy or dirt, but I cleaned that up. So first thing we're gonna do is just start putting the main pieces back together. So I've kind of already gone through the rebuild kit and just kind of taking a look at everything, and to the best of my ability, we're gonna put this back together. So you guys can come along and see how everything goes, and if at the end of it all, this thing fires up with no leaks and runs well. That's the main thing. So we're gonna put the main piece back together. Just get some screws going here. So now that I got the main body of the carburetor put back together, I'm going to be reinstalling the nozzle. I'm not quite sure of the exact name for this, but this will squirt gas into both barrels on the carburetor, and this goes in right back in here. I know it's pretty difficult to see, but that'll go in, and then it has a way that it lines it up, so there's no way you can not put it in correctly. We have two little gaskets, so one will go on the bottom, and then one will go up top in with the screw. But before we put all that in, can't forget the little check ball. Of course, it's a completely different shape than a check ball or an actual ball, but that'll go in first, and that'll go with the sharp end pointing down, I believe. We'll double check that in the instructions, but that goes pointing down, and we'll put this all back together. This is where some nice needle nose pliers would come in handy, but I don't have any of those. Or we could just remove this blade here, but I wasn't quite sure on how to do that. So we actually got that lined up pretty well there. And the last piece with the last little gasket on, so the next part of the rebuild, I'm going to be getting the float back in the bowl along with the needle and seat. So this original spring for the float, there is no replacement in the kit. So just like with a lot of things when you're taking something apart, if you can, be careful and save parts just in case you need to reuse them for some reason. So we're going to slide the spring into these two little tabs at the bottom that locate it. We'll slide that in this little slot, and then the bowl pivots on this shaft here. So we'll get that pressed in. And the spring seated as best as possible. And then there's also a small little clip, a C-clip, that keeps the float from coming off that shaft. So we'll get that into place and we'll get that locked in. So there we go, that clicked in. So next thing is the needle and seat. So I already put a little bit of oil on the O-ring just so that it doesn't catch on anything and goes in nice and smooth. So we're going to take that all the way down. So this nut here has a groove in it that allows it to sit in, and then from there you can use that and push the needle down as far as you need it to be. So I think a good baseline off of some research that I did is if you hang the bowl upside down, for the float to be level with the bottom. So we do need a little more adjustment in there, so we need to drive this down a little farther. So still needs a little bit more. Let's try that there. And actually, I think that's pretty good. So now, looks like I'm missing a little gasket here. So this will take a big gasket there. You put that on, and you have your small gasket. And that should do it. So got that on there. The float is back in and set along with the needle and seat. So hopefully on first fire we don't have any issues with that, or else it's coming back apart. So now that I got the float level set, it's pretty much putting the last two pieces here back on the main part of the carburetor. So this little clip, I'm not quite sure what it's called, but it goes up in this corner. I'm sure it serves a purpose, but that goes in there. And then we're putting the metering block back on as well. I did adjust the idle mixture screws. So I put them all the way in and then turned them a turn and a half back out, which is pretty much like a basic setting as well. So again, with your gaskets, you just want to line these up as best as you can. That seems like it's setting pretty well. And then this one, which I actually didn't even know, has all these pins to kind of line it in place. So that's pretty cool. So makes it easy to make sure that that one does not have a bad corner. So I'm making sure that that's all pressed in where it needs to be. And then lastly, we're just putting the bowl back on. So the rebuild kit for this does come with new gaskets for these bolts. So I'm trying to tighten these evenly across the board, so I'm not completely tightening one compared to the other. I don't want it to pinch any gasket and have an issue with the leak. So once they all feel relatively tight and about the same, and they should be good. And I do have a slight case of OCD, so I might just leave all of them pointing up, and if it leaks, we'll tighten them a little bit more. So that pretty much wraps up the rebuild on the Holley carburetor. So I think it came out good. We got the choke back on, which I didn't really go over too much because I did that in a previous video. So if you guys want to see how to install an electric choke, I'll leave a link in the description to that video, but we'll adjust that once we get it on the truck. The last thing that I am missing is the fuel fitting, which is on its way. I did order the sight bowl plug, which it was missing, so I ordered that. And I believe I'm missing a little bracket here for the return spring for the throttle, but we'll see if that's really necessary. But hopefully it works well.